Hi, my name is Ganre. I'm a former A-level student and I graduated high school with straight A stars, and I'm here to help you do the same, or if not, just to make A-level maths a little less challenging for you. So in this video, we'll be solving questions on finding the range of a function. Number 1. The function f is defined by f of x is equal to 2 times x minus 4 squared minus 9 for x is less than 3. Find the range of f. So a given function f and its domain x is less than 3. So to find its range, we have to be able to sketch the graph of f. So let's start by doing that. We know that it has a turning point at 4, negative 9. Okay, so let's draw a Cartesian plane. Let's say 4 is somewhere here and negative 9 would be somewhere here. So if you sketch the curve, it would look something like this. But remember, our domain is x is less than 3. So 3 would be somewhere here. That means we want our curve starting here, going to the left. So if I can just sketch that again, it would look something like this. And that would be our curve. Now we can tell that our curve is increasing going upwards. So to be able to find our range, we need to know what the y value is when x is 3. So we'll substitute into our function and say f of 3 is equal to 2, 3 minus 4 squared minus 9, which will give us minus 7. So f of 3 is equal to minus 7. So we now know that this value here is minus 7, and since our graph is increasing going upwards, y is greater than minus 7, or we can say that f of x is greater than minus 7, and that would be our final answer. Now let's move on to question number 2. The function f is defined by f of x is equal to negative 2 times x plus 2 squared minus 5 for x is less than negative 3. Find the range of f. Again, we have to start by sketching our function. So the turning point of our function is negative 2, negative 5. Okay, so let's sketch our Cartesian plane. Negative 2 will be somewhere here and negative 5 will be about here. So our turning point is here. And notice that it's a negative quadratic. So that means that our curve will be upside down. So it would look something like this. And then our domain is x is less than negative 3. Negative 3 is somewhere here. So that means we want to cut our graph at this point and we want the left hand side. So let's redraw our graph, and this is the portion that we want. And from there, if we can find the y value when x is negative 3, then we can find the range. We can tell that our function is going downwards. So we'll come and say f of negative 3 is equal to negative 2, open brackets, negative 3 plus 2 squared minus 5, which will give us negative 7 again, which is negative 7. And since our function is going down, we can say that y values are going downwards, so y is less than negative 7, or f of x is less than negative 7, and that would be the final answer. Now let's move on to question number 3. The function f is defined by f of x is equal to 2 minus 5 over x plus 2 for x is greater than negative 2. State the range of f. So again, we need to sketch the graph. Now this time, this is a rational function, so its graph will be based on the graph of y equals 1 over x, and the graph of y equals 1 over x looks like this. like this. This is the graph of y equals 1 over x. Now if we then add 2 units here, it means we're shifting our graph to -2. So that would mean that this line here, instead of being the y-axis, it becomes -2, and our y-axis will be somewhere here because we've shifted our graph by 2 units to the left. You notice that we also have +2, which is this 2 over here, and that 2 means that we're shifting our graph upwards by 2 units. So that means this line here would become the line y equals 2, and our x-axis would be somewhere here. This would be the x-axis, and that's your y. And then we also have a 5. So instead of having a 1 here, we now have a 5. That 5 is just a stretch in the y direction, but since this is a rough sketch of the graph, we won't really be able to show that. And now there's also this negative sign here, so it means we're reflecting our graph in the x-axis. So if we're to reflect this graph over here, it would now look like this, and that part would look like this. So the graph that we want is the blue graph. That's the graph of f of x is equal to 2 minus 5 over x plus 2. And notice that our domain says x is greater than -2, and -2 is at this point here. This is the line for -2. So we only want the graph on the right side, we don't want the graph on the left hand side. This is the graph that we are dealing with. So from there we can tell that the graph of f of x in this case is approaching our line y is equal to, this is y equals 2. It's approaching this line y equals 2, but they will never touch. It's an asymptote. So that means that y will always be less than 2. And here as they go down, again, this line x equals -2 is an asymptote. You can tell that our values will continue to decrease until they get to -infinity. That means that our range is between -infinity and 2. So instead of writing -infinity, we can just write it as y is less than 2, and we can write that as f of x is less than 2, and that would be the final answer.